And I have to say, this is our honeymoon trip, by the way. This was our...
So just a quick view of this big overview of what we did. Vancouver, San Francisco, San Francisco, Hawaii, Hawaii to Fanning Island, Fanning to Saguaro, and then Saguaro to Tonga, and Tonga on down to New Zealand. So this is the first portion of the trip. Our original plan was to head straight to Hawaii. And just a little bit of background of our reasoning on the route to go. We just decided to do something different. We didn't want to go down to Mexico and follow the regular path that most cruisers seem to take. I'd taken the trip, I crewed on another boat down there several years before, and I enjoyed it, but we just wanted something different. And we'd heard about Fanning Island, this place that not too many people go to, and we just said, yeah, this is a place that interests us. So the plan was to go straight to Hawaii, but we had a lot of calm weather. And so what happened is we ended up having a motor, and with our low capacity fuel, we had to pull into San Francisco to get some fuel. But that was good. This is heading out Ogden Point, a friend waving us off there, going up to one of the Fuca Straits. And it's always exciting heading out the straits and getting out in the open ocean at first. This is at one point where one of the calms out the Oregon coast. We were so calm, we threw the kayak in the water, and we were paddling the kayak, and we actually had a sea lion come by and put on a show for us for about half an hour. He was quite thrilled to have us out there too, it seemed. But then the wind certainly picked up again. This is where Vera spent most of her time, up in the pilot house. She would sleep up there, read up there, and keep whoever was on watch company. It was great because she'd wake up in the middle of the night and keep whoever on watch. We would talk and play games. We played lots of card games up in the pilot house. It was a big whale. I believe it was a blue whale. It was big. We didn't see too many. We were in San Francisco. And we were there for Fleet Week, so it was busy. The sailing and that was quite, great winds and boats everywhere, and the air show going on. There's an anchorage you can see. We thought we were going to almost lose the boat down there once we saw it from up the hill there. Some big boat going by with a wake, and we saw the boat roll, and it was one of the worst rolls I've ever seen her done. And there we were just looking at it, and oh my God, I hope we put the stuff away.
Yeah, before we left, I did, who was it I did the questions to? Carol Hossey. I did her Sailmakers course, which is an excellent weekend-long course. And as you'll see through various slides, it comes in really, really handy. So it's a great course to take.
Oh, just Halloween. We spent Halloween on the passage to Hawaii. About 26 days from San Francisco to Hawaii. We got dressed up, trick-or-treating. And for the most part, it was pretty good weather. Yeah, that's the washboard that we had up in the pilot house. That and a clear Lexan one that I had in there, so we could close everything up. But that was our sort of eating platform and everything. There's birthday. We celebrated her birthday at sea just before arriving into Hawaii. And this is making landfall in Hilo. So we spent some time on the Big Island, went to see the volcano. Part of there's homeschooling. Well, why don't you talk about homeschooling?
So we thought, is anybody else traveling with kids? Okay, so homeschooling is a little bit. We decided not to go with a formal program because we knew that we were in Europe and there was going to be so much to do. So our objectives was that she'd be able to read and print and do math by the time we got to wherever we were going. So we just had a very informal education. We'd make up stuff. And on our passage from San Francisco to Hawaii, she was studying geology and volcanoes in particular. So the treat was, when we got to Hawaii, was to go and actually visit a real volcano. We had some great homeschooling adventures.
Captain took a monument there on the west side of the Kaliakaka Bay, I think it was pronounced. That's the one, thank you. I'm terrible at things. That was a great little spot with lots of spinner dolphins. This is in Molokai. Now, this is a bit of an interesting story here. one of the things that we really enjoyed having on board was the ham radio. It kept us in touch with people in the Pacific Seafarers Net. We checked in with them regularly, and we got to talk to Jamie, KH6KW, I believe was his call sign. And he was the one that got us pretty well the whole trip, and he had a good, strong signal, and we kind of got to know him very well, and he mentioned that he lived in Molokai. So we decided, well, when we go to Molokai, we'll go visit Jamie. Anyways, Charlie's Charts shows you how to get into this particular anchorage. And it's the house that you see right here. And in behind there, you can't quite see it, is Norfolk pine, and you line up the Norfolk pine in the house, and it takes you right into the anchorage. It's perfect. Anyway, so we dropped the hook, and then shortly after we got on the radio, we called up Jamie and said, well, we've just anchored, and where do we find you? Well, it turns out that was Jamie's house. We were anchored in front of it. He said, yeah, is your boat a big red one? And so we got to spend a bit of time in Molokai, and that was probably one of our favorite places in Hawaii. Hawaii is a bit difficult for cruising. They're not really geared for cruisers, and they're expensive, and places they don't want you anchoring. They don't tell you about the mooring buoys that are 12 feet underneath the water. You have to sort of find out they are day-use mooring buoys. Things have changed there from a lot from here. Like, we couldn't even find moorage in Honolulu very easily. Our first bananas, one of the locals in Molokai gave us a stock of bananas. Just driving around. It was a beautiful island. There's Jamie's house, and there's Jamie himself. And the neat thing about Jamie is, and we didn't realize it until we met him, is that he's blind. And he doesn't let on when he talks to you on the radio, because he talks in visual terms. And he even said, oh yeah, is that your boat? Yeah, the red hulls. It's a beautiful boat that we just saw anchored in front. And his wife sort of described it to him. And he looks at you and he talks. And he was a great, great friend. So we carried on from Hawaii. We just reprovisioned it in Honolulu and set off for Fanning Island, Fanning is one of the, is part of Kiribati. Eastern Kiribati, there's Christmas Island, Fanning Island, and Washington Island. And they're kind of off on their own. Somebody wasn't too thrilled about heading off again, I think. But partly for that reason. We did get into some pretty rough weather heading down to Fanning. And the waves were getting big. And we were pounding a fair bit. We reefed down. And we ended up beating a fair bit. And on the trip, fortunately, we're only about 60 miles out from Fanning. All of a sudden, we heard this huge bang. It was like, oh my God, what was that? We looked up, and the whole rig is loose. And we lost a trout. I'm looking around trying to figure out what trout. I can't see anything. And I go up to the foredeck, and the whole mast step and the whole foredeck was caved in. The whole mast had dropped down, well, several, 4, 5, 6 inches. Probably more than that, actually. Why? At the time, I didn't have a clue. It was like, we just went into panic mode quickly, dropped all the sails, and then started up the motor, kept her moving, and I tightened up the rig as much as I took up all the slack I could and tightened the rig as best as we could. And fortunately, we had enough fuel to motor the rest of the way into Fanning Island.
But we didn't know that at the time.
Yeah, well, yeah, it was tight, but we made it. And basically, we
said what else happened on that. We also, like during that trip, so we're getting banged and pounded. You've got boat bites all over you. It was miserable. Even he is quoted in the log saying this was not nice, which is really unusual. The rest of us were fairly sick. But at some point in time, we banged so hard that the quarter-inch steel rings that are digging up the davits in actually broke right through, dropped the dinghy in water, disgorging all the contents, our comfortable chairs, the kayak, our spare paddles, everything gone. Just like that. And so we spent the next 3 hours on deck, all of us naked. Lyra's taking the helm and having to point out where the kayak is, because we need to get this kayak back. And Steve and I are up there in this raging weather. We're really stupid, actually, because we didn't even have harnesses on trying to rescue the kayak, which we eventually did, and got back on board. And I guess 3 or 4 hours later, cold, tired, we finally got back on the boat, and it was after that that we lost the mast.
Yeah, it was actually the next day or something like that, but yeah. And to qualify that, we carried our dinghy in that, so it was 12-foot partial dinghy, we didn't have any place on deck. And because Windrunner is fairly high on the transom, I felt it was relatively safe to carry. It was always a risk, and part of the reason that it broke is because I didn't overbuild the lashings for it, because I didn't want it to be too solid. If I did take a full wave, I did want the dinghy to let go, so they wouldn't rip the whole davits off. So it was one of those trade-offs that maybe it should have been a wee bit stronger, but it was one of those risks that we took, and fortunately it turned out not too bad. So this is Fanning Island, also known as Tabuana. That's the Kiribati name. If you read it, it's Kiribati. Some people call it Kiribati, but the T-I in Kiribati is pronounced with an S. And it's an atoll, fairly flat, and you can see the entrance is right in here, is where you come in and where we anchor. Oops, one more direction. And you can see right there now is the village. And then this, where we anchored, was right up in here. Very protected. The only thing you get is steady trade winds blowing 2 miles across the lagoon. You can pick up a little bit of weather and get some squalls, and at times it did get a bit rough. But we're anchored in about 12 feet of water, and the anchor's held. I mean, it was, we weren't going anywhere. We were wrapped around a couple of bombies, and this is arriving into the island. We arrived Christmas Eve.
Christmas Eve with our broken mast and everything else, we go ashore, and the first guy that we meet is a fellow by the name of Peter, who immediately invites us to come to church. And of course we say yes, we would love to go to church because we know that faith is a huge part of our life. And so he says, be back here at whatever time, and he's arranged for a truck to pick us up. How nice! And this truck goes down the road and goes down this road and picks up people, and all you see are these fires burning the bush with people's homes on, and people singing. And the truck keeps loading up with these Tupperware containers and people and kids and occasional pig and whatnot. And eventually they say, can you get up and walk? Because there's some of the older people that are coming. And we get to this church after 13, 14 kilometers or something like that. And the church started, first we have a feast, and then you have a 2-hour church service. And then you have a 2-hour feast, and then you have a 2-hour church service, and then you have a 2-hour feast, and then you have a